welcome back to Ring Generals. Bruce Snyder, along with a guy who I've been following for quite a while, and I have to admit, you are a guilty pleasure. Even though a lot of times you're wrestling as the heel, I can't help but root for you, Mr. Hflo.
It's a pleasure to be here, Bruce, and you're not the only one that I'm a guilty pleasure for. A lot of people out there, they'll holler and scream and be nasty to me, but behind the scenes, they do exactly what you do. They'll come up and shake my hand and want to be around me. That's the way it goes. That doesn't mean I'm any less of a bad guy, though. So,
back in the day, the promoters would have a fit because you'd be violating the quote-unquote pro wrestling law. Nowadays, how does it make you feel knowing that you're the heel most of the time, you're the heel, but people want to cheer you, or at least a lot of people do? Does that bother you at all?
It doesn't bother me because, to be honest, the whole heel babyface thing is kind of skewed. People think they know what a heel is. People think they know what a babyface is. I'm going to be honest. I'm just me. You put me in a situation, I'm going to win regardless. But if you put me in a situation where I happen to have to beat up somebody that you don't like, you're going to cheer me. Heel and babyface, people throw those words out there, and quite honestly, they don't mean anything to me. It's really situational. I'm going to be who I want to be. And if it means you have to boo me, you paid your money, you go ahead and boo me. I'm going to give it back to you. If you got to cheer me, hey, more power to you. I got a shirt I'll sell you.
But some guys just love being cheered. They really, really need that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Some guys really need the adoration of the fans.
That is really true. And some guys need the exact opposite. Right. Some guys don't want to be cheered. Some guys will relish coming to the ring and telling each one of the fans, I do not like you and you need to go away. And they won't talk to them. They won't interact. They won't do any of that stuff. Those are the type of guys that, maybe don't understand what wrestling is too much. But, it is what it is. I don't knock the way anybody handles their business. They can handle their business the way they want to.
I look at you, and you certainly have a lot of great years left, but I'm not going to say that you're 22 years old or anything like that.
I'm definitely not a spring chicken,
right.
That's for sure.
So what I'm getting at is wrestling has changed a lot in the time you've been in it.
Oh, absolutely.
What are the biggest changes? Go ahead. You were going to start commenting, so I'm just going to lead you in by saying, what are the biggest changes, and do you like the direction it's going?
It's all relative. The biggest changes that I've seen is the type of fans. You hear. I don't know if you hear it a lot, but in all actuality, pro wrestling is societal. Okay, so it's based off the type of society it is. The society these days, 25 years after I started, is a considerably different society than it was when I started back in 95, 96. Okay. The fans are more informative. You have the internet. Everybody keeps up with everything. When I first started, it was a treat. You were still having to call hotlines to find out when wrestling events were. You were still doing VCR, VHS tape trading, to see other shows.
Excuse me. Guilty as charged. Go ahead.
And you're not the only one. I did a little bit of that myself. Sure. That was, when I didn't get to see what I saw that was on TV at that time, you go out, you find those old Starcade, you find those old Georgia Championship wrestlings, okay, the Florida wrestling, you find all that stuff because that's what you wanted to watch, all the Japan stuff from back in the day. So it's a societal thing. How it's changed, it's more informative. The fans are more involved, I think. It's harder to, because the stories have been told and they've been told and they've been told. It's, you have to be super creative. It's a lot harder to be creative with how you're telling your stories inside the ring, how you're doing your business in the sport of professional wrestling. As far as professional wrestling is concerned, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. And whoever's watching this is that's heard this before. They know where they've heard it. Yeah, I've heard it from the very same guy, but it makes sense. The guy's smart that says it. Okay, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Okay, wrestling is the same thing that it's always been. It is based on a good guy. It's based on a bad guy, and they are going to fight, and they're going to tell whatever story that they're going to tell, and there is going to be a winner, and there is going to be a loser.
Except it used to be and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so disagree with me if you want, but it used to be, in the end, the guy wearing the white hat had to be standing tall. Used to be, back in the day. Now it seems like that's not the case at all, and it's more about the way, as you said, the audience is sort of influencing things, and I think that would drive me a little bit nuts if I knew that my fate wasn't necessarily tied to my promo ability or my match ability, but how I'm registering with Joe Sixpack.
It's not really out of the question though, Bruce. Let's be honest. What's the whole point of being a promoter and running a professional wrestling event? The whole point is to what? Make money. Okay. How do you make money in professional wrestling? You sell tickets. Okay. How do you sell tickets? That's the key. How do you sell tickets in professional wrestling? You have to have something that they call heat. Whether it's a bad guy that people want to see get beat up so bad that they would pay money to go see it, or they have a good guy that the people want to buy a ticket for to come in and clean house and win that coveted championship and be on top and be the idol that they want to see. That's what heat is, and that's how you sell tickets, and that's how it is.
You know what I'm noticing? I tend to watch people very closely, not just listen to what they say, but watch your body language. Right? You're smiling, or at least I call it a secret smile, during this interview, and that tells me that you really love it. I mean, I can just tell wrestling is not an occupation for you, it's an obsession, isn't it?
It absolutely is an obsession. It's been an obsession. I have been a professional wrestler longer than I've not been a professional wrestler in my life.
That's scary, isn't it?
It is scary. At the same time, I've kind of went with it. I made professional wrestling what my life was about. I've brought my family along, which was not easy. I've been married almost 20 years. I've been with her longer than that, and she's been through the thick in professional wrestling because it can drive you batty. But at the end of the day, here I am still doing what I love to do, probably making more money and doing more things now than I've ever done in my career, and I'm enjoying it.
Why? Yeah. Why are you enjoying it more, and why did wrestling just grab a hold of you?
Personally,
two-part question.
Why am I enjoying it more? One, personally, my perspective changed on wrestling. Okay, I started out a certain way. I started out doing a different genre of wrestling. I was around different people in professional wrestling. Okay, it was so much more of a chore. It was harder on me. I wasn't, it takes a while for you to actually start succeeding in wrestling. That's just the nature of the beast. And I was not having any fun. Okay, so as I got older, the more, by default, you're going to be introduced to more people. You're going to, broaden your horizons, broaden your network. And the more people that I met, the easier it got for me. Some things started to click in my head. And part two was what, Bruce?
Part two is, what was it about wrestling that grabbed you in the first place? Maybe when you were a little cash flow. What was it that you just said, you know what, I got to be a part of this?
I always wanted to be a professional athlete. Because I was a three sport guy coming up.
What sports?
Baseball, football, and basketball.
Okay.
I played those up until high school, and then I became all district guy around Bullitt County in basketball.
Right.
I played a couple years of football. Football I didn't really like. I enjoyed the contact.
Right.
So I wanted to be a professional athlete. I was a little small in basketball, which was my sport of choice. Didn't quite work out. I tried my hand at it. Didn't quite work out. I said, okay. I got introduced to professional wrestling at a very young age.
How old?
9.
No.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Yeah.
How were you introduced?
My grandfather.
Did you flick on the TV with relatives?
No, my grandfather had the TV on at a certain time every single day, every single weekend. If I wasn't running around, if I wasn't out playing in the dirt or, playing manhunt outside, I would come in there and watch TV. Sometimes I would start off drawing, wouldn't pay a lot of attention. Then you'd hear the roar of the crowd. Okay, then you would hear the commentators, and get amped up. Then a good old hard Dusty Rhodes promo would come up, and you get the little chills in your spine. You're like, what is this? And then they would start making you believe. You would watch one of them Wahoo chops and be like, okay, now if that's fake, I don't know how they do that. Okay, and then you would get in front and you would see an I Quit match with Magnum and Tully, and you're like, dude, he's bleeding buckets. Are they really hurting themselves? What is this? And it brought me in. It brought me in.
Well, speaking of the chops, that is your.
Oh yeah, he's okay.
You are the man when it comes. You don't stop when it comes to the chop. Okay.
No.
So if someone comes up to you, and I'm sure it's happened, you've been a wrestler a long time, and says, "Dude, come on, it's showbiz. It's not real." How do you respond?
You want one? That's how I would respond. You want one?
You know
I'll be glad to.
You know what?
What?
I actually do. Don't kill me. All right? It doesn't have to be all, yeah, I want one right now.
Okay, I wasn't necessarily talking about
I know you weren't, but you know what?
but
Sometimes you just got to walk the walk.
sometimes you just got to walk the walk.
All right. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today.
This is a Ring General's first.
Yeah, maybe a last also.
Maybe a last. We may be ready to cut to commercial. You have that on speed dial, right? The 911. I will remind you, Bruce, they call me the human defibrillator.
Right. So don't kill me. I just want a little taste.
How can I give you a little taste? Ring Generals, an exclusive. I promise you, after this, Bruce probably won't ever take them again. Okay? Just a little. I didn't kill him. He's not dead. He's not dead. Okay?
So anyway, to continue the interview.
Pat him on his back. Can you get him some oxygen over here? Real quick.
Forget the oxygen. Could I get a new chest cavity?
Generally, I get paid for that.
Okay. I want to tell everyone that's not me pretend that I seriously felt that. Okay, not that anyone was thinking otherwise, but how does it make you feel when you're in there and you're delivering the chops and you know that the pain is coming and going, and sometimes people think that it doesn't feel the way that just felt.
That never bothers me, because you know what I do? When that happens, I listen. You can watch anytime I'm in the ring, and any of your viewers out there that are listening, every time you see that, you can watch me. I listen, okay? And sometimes you see, that little smirk that you were talking about earlier, that little hidden grin.
Yeah.
I get that hidden grin, and there's a reason for that. Professional wrestling, I have made my life professional wrestling, okay? And when the first person that doesn't believe comes to a wrestling event and they see that, I will guarantee you they will leave wondering. Now, I don't know about that, okay? Which is what professional wrestling is, which means I've done my job, okay? Because I'll guarantee you, Bruce can attest, somewhat. Bruce can attest. Professional wrestling is about as real as it gets, okay? There are a few underlying things that you can't, that I won't let out just because I'm an old school type of guy. But there are a few underlying things that you guys aren't going to understand. But I promise you, when somebody punches me in my face, more than likely they're punching me, okay? More than likely they're punching me. When I chop somebody, I guarantee you will feel it in 5, 6, 7 rows back. And that's no joke.
And what that does also is, you can't see the look on my face because of the mask I'm wearing, but trust me, the look on my face would have been real. And anyone watching you doing that in a match is going to see a real reaction from your opponent.
They're going to see a real reaction. They're going to react real.
Okay, since you talked about injuries, tell me about the injuries that you've had in your career. And I'm not talking about the minor sprains. I'm talking about the real injuries that you've had. I know every wrestler talks about it almost like a badge of courage. No, really? I don't want to jinx anything. You've never had a real injury.
A few cuts, a few scrapes. I've never had a real injury. I'm not going to go into the list because, like I said, I'm not going to speak that stuff into existence. I'm at a point now where I like to take care of myself.
Sure.
Okay. I don't have a lot of vices. You know what that means.
Right.
That's not me. I am a gym rat. Okay. I try to watch what I eat.
How often are you in the gym? How many days a week? How many hours a day?
5 to 6 times a week, and it is generally between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
See, what's interesting though, you're obviously in good shape, but you've got a different, a power look as opposed to a bodybuilder look.
You know why? We were discussing that earlier. A lot of times, guys, they can't get a certain size or a certain body type without help. Okay, I'm not bashing it or condoning it in any way. Guys do what they have to do. Professional wrestling is a grown folk sport. I'm not bashing it or condoning it. Okay, I've never needed any of that type of help. I need a gym, some weights, and my own personal motivation to do what I've always wanted to do, and that's be a professional wrestler.
You're a fan of the history of pro wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
If you could wave your magic wand and face anyone who now is either retired or sadly passed on, face them in their prime, who would you like to face? Let me ask you, first of all, would it be Wahoo McDaniel, chop against chop?
Oh, yeah, that would be lovely. Manny Fernandez. Oh,
the Raging Bull.
The Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. Oh, and the Great American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, baby. Yeah, my Dusty Rhodes sucks. But, I call him a goat.
If you will.
Flair, if you will. Funky like a monkey, baby. Flair in his prime would that would be great. Let me see some of the more obscure.
What's interesting though is you're sticking with the Southern wrestler. Yeah, I didn't really hear you mention any of the Northeastern wrestlers, and you like who you like. It's just interesting because the Northeastern wrestlers, once Vince McMahon took the WWF, now WWE National,
right.
They got more exposure. So I think it's interesting that you stayed with your roots.
That's because I was never a Northeastern wrestler guy. I really didn't start watching that particular style of professional wrestling until, maybe the early days of the Monday Night Raw show, the early 90s, the late 80s. I didn't, I was always a Memphis guy. I come up in a Memphis, part of the Memphis territory. Louisville Gardens, what can I say? All the Southern territories was my deal. Of course, back then it was such an exclusive club. Everybody made their rounds regardless.
Sure.
But the only time that I actually watched those guys was the Southern territory.
And it's so funny you should say that because one of the things I always thought was you came along a little too late. I could see you during the territories, I could see you just cruising into territory after territory, from Jarrett and Tennessee, going to the Mid-Atlantic region, going to Georgia, going to Florida, going to Bill Watson Mid-South, going to WCCW in Texas, going to St. Louis. Sure. Absolutely, I could see you as frankly, the badass killer. And going up against the hero.
Yeah, but I'm not going to be no Joe LeDuc. I'm not going to be slicing myself with no axe. That guy scared me when I was a youngin'. Nah, man, that promo with Joe LeDuc.
The Canadian freight train, baby.
Yeah, Joe LeDuc was crazy.
But I always thought you would have been perfect in that scenario.
You know what? That's what I grew up watching. So as I progressed in professional wrestling, you tend to emulate, what
you see, right?
And that's just the way I was. Would I succeed then? You can't. There's no way that you would have been able to tell. Would I give it hell? Yes, I would give it hell. That's for sure.
Okay, before we get to our trivia question, I gotta ask you, what does the future hold in the ring for Mr. Hflo here?
Right now, I'm just gonna give it all I got. And when I don't have anything left, the only person that's going to know that is me and and when it's time, I'll just, what does
So it's not like you're saying 4 more years in the ring or 10 more years in the ring or anything like that. No. It's when it feels right.
When it feels right, when my body tells me it's time, when I get with my family and we're all in agreement that it's time for me to step back. That doesn't mean when I do step back, that doesn't mean I'm done with professional wrestling. Like, right now I work for Al Snow Wrestling Academy. I'm actually a teacher at Al Snow Wrestling Academy. That is going to be, professional wrestling is always going to be what I do. Now, whether or not I'm in live and living color in front of fans, giving them what they want to see, or if I'm, teaching the background, trying to bring the young guys up, giving them the tools that they need to continue pushing professional wrestling forward, in a proper manner. It doesn't matter, but in some form or fashion, professional wrestling is always going to be in my blood, and that's what I'm always going to do.
And the last question before we get to the trivia.
Okay.
Obviously, when you popped out, Mama didn't name you Cash.
No.
So, where did you go? Look, first of all, do you want to tell people what your birth name?
Most people know my birth name. Anybody that knows me, I'm very forthcoming. I mean, I got it tattooed on my chest. My kids' names are tattooed.
Do you mind if I tell them and then we'll get on to the question?
No, go ahead. I don't care.
Mr.
Bruce.
Michael Walden. Mike Walden. So, if he ever falls, it's a mic drop.
Yeah. Most of you people, you don't deserve to call me by that name.
That's right.
Most of you people, it's Mr. Cash.
So where did the name Hflo come from? That's what this is all leading up to.
Many years ago, a few years ago, I'll just say, when I started wrestling, when I was going to wrestling school and I was, learning the ropes and being taught, a lot of the guys that I got to work with, told me, before I'd even come up with a name or anything, man, you go with the flow really well.
Oh, nice.
And it just, I think one person just out of the blue, and it was like a couple days before I'd actually come up with a name, man, you hit that right on the money. Because I used to do these huge leg drops off of anything that I could jump off of.
Right.
I was young and dumb, and I would hit them, and guys was, man, you were right on the money with that. When we were in school, nobody ever got hurt. And me and a guy, we were the only guys setting up a ring to do a house show at a bar here in Louisville, Shakey's Bar and Grill, if anybody knows. Me and a guy named Lenny Montgomery. We're sitting there and we were putting a ring up and we were trying to think of names for me. Lenny, of course, was already working, and I was just now getting ready to start coming out of school and working. And he was like, "Yeah, well, why don't we call? What about Hflo?" I got to thinking, okay, yeah, sure, Hflo. And of course it evolved from just Hflo to what Hflo actually meant. In wrestling, but yeah.
All these years later, it's stuck.
It's stuck, and I've never changed it. And where I'm at now, in all honesty, it's easily brandable, easily marketable.
That's such a cool story.
And I can do anything with it. So it's just stuck. If something happens and somebody says, hey, well, because I'm not going to name this person, but somebody when I first came back to OVW in 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, they wanted me to go by my real name, and they wanted me to come up with a name, and they kept pitching these names, and I was this close to changing my name to Mike Wall. And I just said, why would I do that? Why would I waste all my time doing this when I can easily brand, all these people know who I am. Why would I change my name to that? And, people argue, well, it's going to be easier for you to make it to the next level because they'll have your name. No, they'll give you whatever name they want to give you.
Right.
It has nothing to do with it. I'm out here trying to make a living wrestling. These people already know my name. Why would I change it and turn myself into obscurity?
And the answer to that is because sometimes people overthink things when they really should always use the KISS method. Yeah. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
All right.
Less is more.
That's right. I know Les Moore. He owes me money.
I bet he does.
Okay.
Everybody owes me money, so welcome.
All right. Grappling with trivia is what we call it. 4 questions. Let's see how you do, okay?
Let's do it. Let's play.
Number 1. I have a feeling you're going to nail these, but we'll see. No pressure.
Okay.
What was the original name of WWE? Was the original name NWA, AWA, WWF, or WWWF?
It's the WWWF, the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, owned by Vince Sr.
Very good. Just for bonus points, this isn't one of the questions. Do you want to take a guess when it started?
I do not want to take a guess because, like I said previously, I was not a Northeast Territory guy. I came in the Southern Territories, hence my...
Not 1963. Okay. Who was the first champion in the WWWF? Was it Lou Thez, Buddy Rogers, Bruno Sammartino, or the Mighty Gilligan?
I'm going to have to say Nature Boy Buddy Rogers.
And you would be 2 for 2 so far.
Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, one of the greatest of all time.
Who trained former WWE champion Shawn Michaels? Was it Jose Lothario, Playboy Gary Hart, Bret the Hitman Hart, or superstar Billy Graham?
Bret Hart. I know. It's Jose Lothario.
Right.
In Texas.
By the way, can you do a superstar Billy Graham?
No,
Superstar Billy Graham. The men's pet, the women's... The women's pet, the men's regret.
I can't do Superstar Billy Graham because I can't do Dusty Rhodes. Where do you think Dusty Rhodes got that?
Well, they both got them from Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, finally, and I know you're going to nail this. Ric Flair is known as a nature boy.
Right.
He's not the original nature boy. Before I even give you the choices, you want to pop out who you think the original nature boy is? Your choices are Nature Boy Buddy Landel, Nature Boy Stanley Lane, Nature Boy Buddy Rogers, or Nature Boy Myron Schmendrick?
I didn't know. I've never heard of Myron Schmendrick. But I would have to go back to the Buddy Rogers deal because, I mean, quite frankly, he's the greatest of all time. And I vaguely remember, I forget some stuff these days, but I vaguely remember hearing an interview by Flair describing where he had gotten the Nature Boy gimmick from, and I think it was Buddy Rogers.
And it was 4 for 4, my man. And basically, Rogers and Flair, they had a battle of the Nature Boys, which Flair ended up winning.
And Buddy Landel tried to do that too, and it didn't work out too well.
All right, we appreciate you watching us. Remember to like us, Ring Generals, on Facebook.
Yeah, you got to watch this anyway. You got to watch this anyway to watch Bruce get chopped.
Stop the chop. Okay. Facebook and YouTube, Ring Generals, and I want to know how to follow you. Can you give me your social media accounts?
There are many ways to follow me. You can find me on Facebook.com/IamCashflow. You can find me on Instagram @CashKY. You can find me on Twitter @Cash's Chop Shop. I have my own YouTube channel. Just search up Cashflow on YouTube. It'll come up. There's all kinds of good little nuggets from the mid to late 90s up until, a lot of the OVW stuff and some of the stuff that I do around the country. You can also follow ChopShopWrestling.com. I have my own website. You can get all your good merch there. And I've also opened it up to some of the other guys that are in wrestling. I've given them pages on there so they can try and push their brand out there as well. So don't forget, Thanksgiving Thunder, Tuesday night, November 23rd. Okay, bell time 7 o'clock. Blizzard Brawl, December 4th. I think it's Kenosha, Wisconsin. It's going to be a huge show. The only show that formerly known as Braun Strowman is doing out on the Indies probably before he makes. And I'll be going up against 2-time All Japan Triple Crown winner Joe Doring. It ought to be a slobber knocker.
And if you happen to watch this interview after those dates, you can go back into the OVW archives and check them out.
Or you can go to, for the Blizzard Brawl, you could probably find it on blizzardbrawl.com.
There you go. You know what they say, if you love what you do, you never work a moment in your life. That being the case, you still have never worked.
I've never worked in 25 years, Bruce.
Hey, may it stay that way. Cashflow, thank you so much for the time.
Absolutely.
It was my pleasure, well, for most of my body.
Yeah, I was going to say, but you'll go home thinking about it. Yeah, it was my pleasure.